In March of 2023, an international team of physicists confirmed something that no one predicted, no blueprint described, and no archaeological model accounted for. Hidden just beneath the limestone surface of the Great Pyramid of Giza, behind the chevron stones that have sat exposed on the north face for 45 centuries, there is a sealed corridor, 9 meters long, roughly 2 meters wide, completely untouched for approximately 4,500 years. No human being alive has ever set foot inside it. No camera has captured what lies at its end. The Egyptian government has acknowledged its existence. They have confirmed it is real, and they have not opened it. The oldest and largest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a structure we thought we understood, still has rooms we have never seen. The question is no longer whether the Great Pyramid holds secrets. The question is how many. The discovery belongs to the Scan Pyramids Project, a collaboration launched in October 2015 under the authority of Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The project is led on the Egyptian side by Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, and on the scientific side by Hani Hilal of Cairo University, working alongside researchers from France's HIP Institute, the Japanese KEK Particle Physics Laboratory, and Nagoya University. Their mission was deceptively simple: scan the interior of the Great Pyramid of Khufu without drilling a single hole, without moving a single stone, without touching the structure at all. The technology they used is called muon tomography. Muons are subatomic particles produced when cosmic rays from deep space strike molecules in Earth's upper atmosphere. These particles rain down constantly, everywhere, passing through solid matter, including stone. But they lose energy as they pass through dense material. By placing muon detectors inside known chambers of the pyramid and measuring how many muons arrive and from what angle, physicists can effectively create a density map of the entire structure. If there is a void, a gap, a room, a corridor, more muons pass through than expected. It is the same technology that was used to peer inside the damaged reactor cores at Fukushima Daiichi after the 2011 nuclear disaster. It does not lie. It does not interpret. It measures particle flux, and the physics is unambiguous. When the Scan Pyramids team pointed this technology at the oldest monumental structure on the planet, the pyramid began revealing spaces that no one knew existed, and no one could explain. The first major discovery came in November 2017, when the Scan Pyramids team published their findings in the journal Nature, one of the most prestigious peer-reviewed scientific publications in the world. They announced the detection of what they called the Big Void, an enormous cavity located directly above the Grand Gallery, the soaring corbelled passageway that leads to the King's Chamber. The Big Void is at least 30 meters long. That is roughly the length of the Grand Gallery itself. It has a cross-section similar to the Grand Gallery, but its exact shape remains uncertain because muon tomography gives density information, not architectural detail. 3 independent muon detection teams, using nuclear emulsion films from Nagoya University, scintillator hodoscopes from KEK, and gas detectors from CEA in France, all confirmed the anomaly independently. The statistical significance exceeded 5 sigma, the gold standard in physics, the same threshold used to confirm the discovery of the Higgs boson at CERN. This was not a maybe. This was a certainty. Then came the corridor. In early 2023, the team published results confirming a second void, the 9-meter corridor behind the chevron stones on the north face, situated directly above the pyramid's original main entrance. This discovery was announced at a press conference in Cairo on March 2, 2023, with Mustafa Waziri and Hani Hilal present. A small endoscopic camera was briefly inserted through a tiny joint between blocks, producing a short video clip showing rough-cut limestone walls. The footage is grainy. It shows a narrow passage with a gabled ceiling, a chevron roof structure identical to the technique used above the King's Chamber, suggesting deliberate architectural design rather than accidental cavity or structural settling. But here is what matters most. The corridor appears to continue. It does not end in a flat wall. The camera's penetration was extremely limited, and what lies beyond the visible section remains completely unknown. Egyptian authorities have not authorized further exploration. No drill, no robot, No extended camera insertion. The corridor is there, it is confirmed, and it sits, sealed as it has for millennia. No orthodox Egyptological model of the pyramid's internal architecture predicted either of these spaces. Not the big void, not the corridor. Every known passage and chamber inside Khufu's pyramid, the subterranean chamber, the queen's chamber, the king's chamber, the grand gallery, the ascending and descending passages, was either documented by early explorers or discovered through invasive tunneling centuries ago. These two voids are entirely new. They appeared on no diagram. They featured in no theory. They simply were not supposed to be there. Now consider what we actually know and what we don't about the Great Pyramid itself. This is where the discovery cuts deeper than a hidden corridor. No mummy has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid of Khufu. The granite sarcophagus in the king's chamber was found empty, its lid missing, when Caliph al-Mamun's workers tunneled into the structure around 820 AD. No treasure, no funerary goods, no canopic jars, no hieroglyphic inscriptions of any kind adorn the interior walls, which is extraordinarily unusual for an Egyptian royal tomb. The only markings ever found inside the structure are quarry marks, red ochre graffiti left by work gangs in the relieving chambers above the king's chamber, discovered by Colonel Howard Weiss in 1837. One of them contains the cartouche of Khufu. That is the sole direct evidence linking the pyramid to the pharaoh. Some researchers, including independent Egyptologist Robert Bauval and materials scientist Dr. Joseph Davidovitz, have raised questions about Weiss's methods and the authenticity of the markings, though mainstream Egyptology considers them genuine. Former Egyptian antiquities chief Zahi Hawass has publicly stated that the Big Void is likely a construction gap, an artifact of the building process, not a hidden room. He said something similar about the corridor, calling it a structural feature related to weight distribution above the entrance. And he may be right. But the chevron ceiling of the corridor is an architecturally sophisticated technique. The ancient builders used it sparingly and deliberately, always to protect important spaces. It appears above the king's chamber, it appears above the main entrance, and now it appears inside this hidden corridor. You do not engineer a carefully gabled stone ceiling to protect empty space. The position of the corridor is equally provocative. It sits directly above the original entrance passage, the descending corridor that angles down into the bedrock. Some researchers, including French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, have speculated for years that undiscovered internal passages may exist, particularly ramp structures used during construction. But even Houdin's models did not predict this specific corridor in this specific location. So what are we actually looking at? There are credible possibilities on both sides, and intellectual honesty requires acknowledging all of them. The conservative explanation is that these are structural voids, gaps left deliberately during construction to reduce the immense weight of stone above critical points like the entrance passage and the grand gallery. Ancient Egyptian engineers were brilliant, and relieving chambers above the king's chamber prove they understood load distribution. The Big Void and the corridor could be part of this same logic, invisible solutions to engineering problems we are only now detecting. But there is another possibility, and it is one that serious archaeologists have raised, not just fringe theorists. If the corridor continues beyond what the endoscope captured, if it leads to an intact, sealed chamber, we could be looking at the most significant archaeological discovery since Howard Carter opened Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings on November 26, 1922. A sealed space inside the Great Pyramid, untouched since the Fourth Dynasty, could contain artifacts, inscriptions, or records that fundamentally rewrite our understanding of the Old Kingdom. It could answer the question of whether Khufu was ever actually buried here. It could reveal construction techniques we have debated for centuries, or it could be empty. And that emptiness itself would demand an explanation. The pyramid contains approximately 2-3 million stone blocks. It stood as the tallest structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. And in 2023, we confirmed that we still don't know what's inside it. Egyptian authorities say they plan to eventually insert a more advanced camera system to explore beyond the visible portion of the corridor, but they have given no timeline, no date, no commitment. Mustafa Waziri has said only that they are studying the situation. That was over a year ago. The corridor remains sealed, the big void remains completely unexplored, and the Great Pyramid, the single most studied ancient structure on the face of the earth, still holds spaces that no living person has ever seen. So here is the question I want you to answer in the comments. Why do you think Egyptian authorities are moving so slowly? Is it caution, the responsible stewardship of an irreplaceable monument? Or is it something else? Do they already know more than they are telling us? If this is your first time here, subscribe, because this channel follows these stories past the headlines, past the press conferences, into the questions no one is asking. Hit the bell so you don't miss the update when they finally look inside. And if you want to go deeper, watch our video on the Big Void discovery of 2017, because that story is far stranger than most people realize. And it connects directly to what you just heard. The pyramid is still keeping secrets. The question is whether we will be allowed to hear them.